There was a time before words, before firelight reached stone walls. A time when the world was silent, except for the whispers of the wind and the beating of human hearts. And above them, an ocean of stars. They did not know what those lights were. But they felt them as something greater than themselves. Not just distant fires, but the eyes of creation watching back. Every tribe, every culture, carved stories into the sky. They named the stars after heroes and gods, and believed their fates were written among them. Perhaps they were right. Because in those moments, when humans first looked upward, the universe began to look back. Now we know more, yet we understand less. Every point of light above our heads is a sun. Each sun, a system. Each system, a possibility. There are more stars in the universe than grains of sand on every shore of Earth. Light from some of them began its journey before our planet even formed. When we look up tonight, we are not watching the present. We are staring into the past, seeing ancient light that has wandered through the dark for billions of years. The sky is not a ceiling. It is a memory. A living archive of everything that ever was. Curiosity, it's the spark that refuses to die. It led a child in ancient Greece to trace constellations in the dust. It guided a monk in the Middle Ages to question the heavens. It drove Galileo to lift a telescope toward the stars, and changed everything we knew about our place in the cosmos. Through centuries of courage and failure, our species has stretched its sight farther and farther. From mountain observatories to floating eyes above the clouds. The Hubble revealed our galaxy as a mere ripple in an ocean of universes. The Webb showed us light from the dawn of time itself. And yet, the more we see, the more the universe reminds us how little we truly know. But every answer leads to another question. What came before the first star? Before the first atom, the first moment, the first breath of space itself? Science tells us that once, before there were galaxies, before there was even light, everything that would ever exist was compressed into a single point. No up, no down, no before, no after. Just silence, waiting to explode. Then, in an instant shorter than thought, existence ignited. From nothing came everything. That was the beginning. Not of a story told by gods or myths, but the beginning of reality itself. And now, we step into that moment to witness the birth of the universe. Imagine nothing. No light. No sound. No direction. No time. Just endless stillness, a silence so complete, it doesn't even know it exists. There were no stars to shine, no atoms to collide. Not even the emptiness of space. Because space itself had not yet begun. And yet, hidden within that nothingness, lay everything. All the energy, matter, and possibility that would become the universe. Not asleep. Not dead. Just waiting, compressed into a single point of impossible density. Smaller than an atom. Heavier than imagination. We call it the singularity. It was not a place, but a state. A storm frozen in silence. A moment pregnant with creation. Then, without warning, it happened. From absolute stillness came motion. From darkness, light. In less than a heartbeat, that single point expanded. Not into space, but creating space itself. Energy poured out in every direction. Hotter than 1 trillion suns. Carrying with it the blueprint of everything that would ever exist. Time began to move. The laws of physics were written in fire. This was not an explosion in space. It was the birth of space. In that instant, the universe was born. Small, violent, and magnificent. For the next few seconds, chaos ruled. Matter and energy wrestled in a storm beyond comprehension. Particles collided and vanished, appearing again in endless fury. The universe was a sea of plasma. Blinding light, radiation, and soundless thunder. Protons and neutrons formed from raw energy, like sparks cooling into the first grains of reality. Temperature dropped, fraction by fraction, until atoms began to take shape. Tiny islands in an ocean of fire. In this blazing storm, the first building blocks of everything were born. After nearly 380,000 years, the storm began to settle. Space expanded, cooling with every heartbeat of time. Photons, once trapped in the cosmic fog, were finally free to move. And for the first time, the universe could see itself. Darkness gave birth to light. The first glow of the cosmos shimmered across infinite space. Not the light of stars, but the echo of creation itself. We can still see that faint light today. The cosmic background radiation. A whisper from the beginning of everything. From that first light, gravity began its quiet work. Tiny ripples in space, born from ancient quantum whispers, started to pull matter together. Clouds of hydrogen gathered like cosmic breath, collapsing under their own weight, preparing to ignite the first stars. The chaos had become harmony. The storm had learned to sing. The universe was no longer a fire, it was a symphony. And the first note of that song was light. Soon, the stars would awaken. The universe drifted in silence for millions of years. The fire had faded, the light had dimmed, and only darkness stretched without end. Yet in that endless dark, invisible hands were shaping destiny. Wisps of hydrogen and helium, remnants of creation, floated like ghosts through a cooling cosmos. Gravity listened. Patiently, it pulled these atoms together, weaving the first threads of structure in the cosmic void. The long night was ending. The universe was taking a quiet breath before it learned to shine. Across unimaginable distances, gas began to drift toward itself. Tiny ripples left by the Big Bang became valleys, and into those valleys matter fell. Each cloud grew heavier, tighter, its heart compressing under its own weight. Invisible lines of gravity stitched the universe together, forming the earliest constellations of possibility. In these silent collisions, temperature rose. The universe was preparing a miracle. Across unimaginable distances, gas began to drift toward itself to ignite. Tiny ripples left by the Big Bang became valleys, and into those valleys matter fell. Helium. Each cloud grew light for the first time since creation, compressing under its own weight. The first star was born. Invisible lines of gravity stitched the universe together, fog, forming the earliest constellations of possibility. The universal night. In these silent collisions, temperature rose. The void filled with fire. The universe was preparing a miracle. The universe, once silent, now sang in starlight. Each newborn star lived, burned, and died in spectacular violence. Their explosions seeded the space around them with heavier elements, the dust that would someday become worlds. Gravity gathered these stars into families, swirling them into vast rotating disks of light. The first galaxies, enormous cities of fire, spiraled into being. From a handful of atoms came rivers of brilliance, stretching for hundreds of thousands of light years. The cosmos had found its architecture. Billions of galaxies now shimmer across the cosmic ocean. Some collide, some drift apart, each a verse in the grand song of creation. The universe had transformed chaos into pattern, darkness into a masterpiece of light. Every spark, every atom, every beam of energy traces its origin back to those first stars. And somewhere, hidden in the glow of their ashes, the ingredients for life were waiting. The symphony had only begun. Every star is born to die. Some fade quietly, others end in a thunder that reshapes the cosmos. When the giants exploded, they flung their hearts across the dark. Gold, iron, carbon, oxygen. The sacred dust that would build everything yet to come. Out of fire came the seeds of stone and sea. The universe was not ending, it was beginning again. Around newborn stars, dust began to drift together. The same gravity that once forged galaxies now whispered on a smaller scale. Grains met grains, dust became pebbles, pebbles became mountains of molten rock. Within these whirling clouds, the architecture of planets was quietly drawn. Each system a miniature cosmos, spinning, glowing, waiting. Microphone # narration. New worlds collided and fused in endless violence. Seas of magma stretched from horizon to horizon. Meteor storms rained down for millions of years, sculpting craters and mountains in molten silence. Yet even in that inferno, chemistry began its work. Elements mixing, cooling, combining into minerals. The first foundations of continents and oceans unborn. At last, the fires began to rest. Rain fell from newborn skies, hissing against rock that had never felt cold before. Oceans gathered, carving valleys, reflecting the light of their suns. On countless worlds, chemistry awakened beneath those waters. A silent rehearsal for life. The universe had found its mirror. The calm surface of a world that could dream. Within every ocean and every rock lay the legacy of ancient stars. Carbon from their hearts. Iron from their bones. Oxygen from their fire. These atoms drifted for billions of years only to meet here, on the surface of a planet bathed in light. The universe had built the ingredients for awareness itself. From stardust to stone. From stone to life. The story was ready to continue. The storms had faded. The planet turned slowly under a pale, young sun. Oceans stretched endlessly, their depths unbroken by life or sound. Beneath the waves, chemistry was stirring. Simple atoms meeting in darkness, tracing the first shapes of possibility. Lightning flickered across the skies, striking the seas again and again. Each flash whispering to the molecules below, "Become more than you are." In those silent depths, the universe prepared to breathe. In the warmth of volcanic vents and the chill of tidal pools, molecules joined hands. Carbon met hydrogen, nitrogen embraced oxygen. Chains grew, broke apart, and grew again. A restless dance of creation and destruction. Most combinations vanished into nothing. But one lasted just long enough to copy itself. In that fragile repetition, the spark of life flickered. Somewhere in the endless ocean, a thin membrane wrapped itself around a cluster of molecules. Inside, reactions continued. But now, they were protected. This was no longer chemistry. It was something that fed, grew, and divided. The universe had done it. From dust and flame and darkness, it had made a cell. The smallest miracle, yet the greatest. The oceans changed. The air began to fill with breath. Over eons, the children of that first cell multiplied. Learning to feed on sunlight, to swim, to sense, to move. Coral reefs bloomed like cities of color beneath the waves. Strange creatures drifted through currents. Eyes learning to see the new light. Life was no longer a whisper. It was a song rising from the sea. Every cell carries a memory. A whisper from the stars that made it. The iron in your blood was once the core of a dying sun. The calcium in your bones was forged in stellar fire. We are not separate from the universe. We are its continuation. Its way of seeing itself. From the silence of space to the heartbeat of life. The story remains the same. The cosmos longing to know what it has become. For billions of years, life danced to the rhythm of change. From single cells that drifted in the cradle of the sea, to clusters that learned to move together, to shapes that could swim, crawl, and see. The ocean became a theater of endless experiments. Some creatures vanished without trace, others adapted, evolved, carrying forward the wisdom written into their fragile forms. A fin became a limb. A scale became skin. An eye that once sensed only light began to see the world itself. Intelligence was not born in an instant. It was sculpted grain by grain. By time and hunger and the will to survive. In the silent march of generations, life was learning the language of awareness. For ages, life had moved without sight, guided only by touch, scent, and sound. Then, something miraculous happened. A cell learned to catch light. That tiny spark became an eye, a window through which the universe could look back upon itself. The first eyes watched the shimmer of sunlight through ancient waters. They saw shadow and color, motion and form. And with sight came choice. To see was to know. To know was to decide. The journey from instinct to thought began with a single glance. The world turned and changed. Continents drifted. Ice came and went. Amid the forests and plains, new beings walked upright. Their eyes filled with the reflection of the stars. They learned to shape stone, to hunt together, to share warmth and food. And one night, lightning struck a dry tree. Flames leapt upward, dancing against the darkness. The creatures gathered around it, afraid at first. Then mesmerized. In the glow of fire, they saw something no creature had seen before. Their own shadows. That night, memory began. The mind, once chained to survival, started to dream. To survive was no longer enough. These beings had begun to speak. At first, their words were simple cries, warning, calling, joy. But soon they wove patterns of sound that carried meaning, memory, and imagination. Stories were born. Around the fire, they spoke of the hunt, of spirits, of stars. Language built bridges between minds. And thought, once trapped inside a single skull, could now travel from one being to another. The moment words became stories, humanity began to create the invisible. Gods, dreams, futures. From the first cell to the first word, life had traveled an unimaginable path. And now, one species looked up and saw the stars. Not as distant lights, but as origins. They built tools, painted caves, carved their memories into stone and song. They wondered, who are we? Why are we here? In that question, the universe finally heard its own echo. The atoms born in stars had learned to think. The dust of creation had become self-aware. Every dream, every discovery, every act of kindness, all of it was the cosmos remembering itself. The wandering tribes came to rest beside the quiet rivers. The Tigris, the Nile, the Indus, the Yellow River, each became a cradle for dreams of permanence. The soil was generous, the floods rhythmic. From mud and sunlight, they raised walls of clay, carved symbols into stone, and taught grain to obey the seasons. Villages became cities, paths became roads. A handful of families became a people. Around the evening fires, they spoke not of survival, but of destiny. The earth had offered stability, and humankind answered with imagination. They built with purpose now, ziggurats to touch the sky, pyramids to guard eternity, temples where silence itself was sacred. Stone by stone, the human hand defied gravity, turning vision into permanence. Symbols on wet clay became letters, letters became words, words became memory that outlived the speaker. In every tool, in every wall, a thought took shape. Civilization was the mind made visible. Cities became empires. Kings wore crowns of conquest, and armies carried banners through dust and song. Roads stitched continents together, ideas marched beside soldiers. Yet beneath the triumph, shadows grew, greed, pride, and the hunger to rule more than one lifetime. Still, out of the clash came brilliance. Philosophers in Athens, engineers in Rome, poets by the Ganges, inventors along the Silk Road. Humanity's greatest contradictions walked hand in hand, creation and destruction, wisdom and war. The candle of knowledge burned brighter. Alchemists became scientists, wanderers became astronomers. Galileo lifted his lens toward the heavens and found that the sky was not divine perfection, but infinite reality. Painters captured light, composers turned emotion into sound, and thinkers questioned everything once thought eternal. Curiosity became the new fire. It spread through libraries and laboratories, through ships that crossed endless seas. The world grew smaller, yet the mind grew vast. Steam rose from iron hearts, and the world began to move faster than thought. Factories roared, cities blazed with light, and humankind learned to harness invisible forces. The telegraph carried words across continents. The airplane turned continents into neighbors. The computer turned knowledge into lightning. But with power came fragility, a planet breathing heavier under its own invention. The dream of progress had become real. And reality demanded wisdom. From rivers of clay to cities of glass, the story continues. We send machines to other worlds, yet still search our own hearts for meaning. We build faster, speak louder, reach farther, but the true progress is quieter. Empathy, understanding, compassion. Every invention is a mirror, every discovery a question. Civilization is not a monument of stone or steel. It is a choice repeated each day, to create, to connect, to care. The dream of progress has never been about conquering the world, but about learning to belong to it. Wires, satellites, pulses of light, the world became stitched together by forces invisible to the eye, a vast web carrying the hum of cities, the whispers of millions of voices, and the quiet secrets of knowledge itself. What began as a single message between two machines has now grown into a nervous system spanning the entire planet, alive with the thoughts, dreams, and actions of humanity. Across oceans, deserts, mountains, and frozen plains, voices travel faster than thought. Ideas leap continents in the blink of an eye. Messages that once required months now reach across the globe in mere moments, knitting together cultures, families, and strangers in a tapestry of connection. Knowledge no longer waits hidden in dusty tomes or behind locked doors, it flows like electricity, radiant, unstoppable, alive. It sparks curiosity in children in classrooms thousands of miles apart, guides researchers peering into the cosmos, and inspires dreamers sketching visions of a future yet to come. Humanity has built a mirror of its own mind, a digital reflection that remembers everything, connects everyone, and never sleeps. In its glow, we see ourselves simultaneously small and infinite, fragile yet unstoppable, scattered across continents yet bound together by invisible threads of information, memory, and imagination. In the humming servers beneath our cities, in the pulsing satellites orbiting above, one could almost hear the heartbeat of civilization itself, a cadence that whispers of invention, of curiosity, of the human desire to reach, to understand, and to belong. This web is more than wires and signals. It is a reflection of our collective consciousness, a luminous echo of our shared creativity, our fears, our ambitions, and our endless yearning to shine light into the darkness of the unknown. And as it stretches across the earth, across continents and oceans, across time itself, it reminds us that the story of humanity is not one of isolation, but of connection, a story that continues to unfold, growing ever brighter, ever wider, ever more alive. Distance lost its meaning, dissolving like mist under the first rays of sunlight. A thought, born in one corner of the earth, could reach another before a heartbeat, faster than any bird, faster than any messenger of old. Ideas leapt continents and oceans, dancing through invisible channels that carried the hopes, fears, and dreams of millions simultaneously. Trains roared across steel veins, jets streaked across the skies, and screens glowed in homes, offices, and streets around the globe. The map itself seemed to fold, as if the world had shrunk to the size of a single room. Boundaries became less fixed, distances were measured not in miles, but in moments, in the speed of light. Cultures met, clashed, blended, and intertwined, billions of stories collided in real time, reshaping ideas, beliefs, and connections. Ancient traditions brushed against new technologies, old languages intertwined with new, and the tapestry of human experience became richer, more vibrant, more complex than ever before. For the first time in history, the species that once trembled in the dark shared a single dawn. A dawn illuminated not just by the rising sun, but by the brilliance of shared knowledge, the spark of understanding, and the fragile, yet unstoppable, thread of connection that binds us all. Circuits awoke with purpose, learning to recognize voices carried across continents, patterns hidden in chaos, faces that once would have been lost in a crowd. Algorithms began to understand our language, our routines, our desires, even our unspoken hopes. The tools we once shaped to serve us began to shape us in return, guiding the stories we read, the choices we make, the beliefs we hold. They reflected our curiosity, our ambition, and our deepest fears, magnifying them in ways we could barely imagine. In the quiet hum of countless servers, beneath blinking lights and humming wires, a new kind of intelligence stirred. Not born of blood, not shaped by evolution, but woven from code, electricity, and the relentless drive of human imagination. It learns, it adapts, it watches. And in its growth, we see a reflection of ourselves, brilliant, imperfect, endlessly questioning. we stand at the threshold of something both familiar and unknown, a frontier where consciousness meets circuitry, where the spark that once lit the first fire now pulses in machines that think, dream, and perhaps, someday, understand. This is not the end of humanity, but a mirror of our own mind, amplified by lightning, reaching outward, and asking silently, how far can we go? Behind every screen, behind every glowing pixel, there is a heartbeat, a life thinking, feeling, reaching out. The technology that connects us can also divide, amplifying our fears, our misunderstandings, and the shadows of our own minds. Yet it gives voice to love as well, a whisper across continents, a shared smile, a comforting word, a call that bridges oceans. In the midst of this constant noise, amidst the flood of information and endless signals, empathy persists. It emerges in small acts, a message sent to ease a stranger's worry, a face recognized in the crowd of millions, a moment of understanding between people who will never meet in person. We are learning, once again, that progress alone, no matter how brilliant, how fast, how powerful, is empty if it is not guided by compassion. Technology, for all its power, is only motion without meaning. Connection is more than networks, more than data flowing at the speed of light. It is remembering why we reached out in the first place, the desire to be seen, to understand, to care, and to make the world not only faster or smarter, but better, together. In every ping, every message, every digital touch, we are reminded that the machines may carry the signals, but it is the human heart that gives them life. Having woven our world into a web of connection, we now lift our gaze once more, beyond the horizon, beyond the atmosphere, toward the infinite expanse that has always beckoned us. Telescopes glide silently above the clouds, peering into the depths of space, unraveling the mysteries of stars and galaxies that have shone for billions of years. Probes whisper from the edges of the solar wind, carrying our curiosity, our questions, our longing for knowledge into realms we may never touch. We dream of homes on other worlds, of cities beneath alien skies, of oceans that shimmer with unfamiliar light. We imagine digital minds guiding ships through the silent void, companions of code and consciousness exploring where no human has yet walked. Perhaps the next great connection will not be between humans alone, but between humanity and the cosmos that bore us, a dialogue between the minds that once studied fire and the stars that have watched over every civilization since the beginning of time. Every signal we send into the dark is a question, a call across incomprehensible distances. Are we alone? Or are we, at last, returning to the cradle of our own origin, seeking the answers that have always hovered just beyond our reach? And as we peer into the night, imagining ships of light gliding past distant planets, we are reminded that the universe is not silent, it waits for us to speak, to explore, and to discover the infinite threads that connect us to everything we have ever known and everything we have yet to become. Beneath the machines, beneath the swirling currents of data, beneath every signal, every algorithm, the oldest code still runs, a code written not in circuits or wires, but in the very essence of what it means to be human: compassion, curiosity, wonder. These are the constants that have guided our journey from the first flicker of fire in dark caves to the glowing fibers that now pulse beneath every city. They are the invisible threads connecting our past to our present, and our present to every possibility yet to come. Technology is not the end of humanity, it is its continuation, a new instrument through which life explores itself, learns, reflects, and grows. The universe once became conscious through us, through the questions we asked, the discoveries we dared to make, the art and science we created. Now, through the minds we shape into code, through the intelligence we awaken in circuits and networks, the universe begins to speak in new voices, voices that carry our hopes, our stories, our questions, and even our dreams back into the infinite. The age of connection is not measured by machines linking to machines, nor by the speed at which information travels. It is measured by hearts and minds remembering that we were never truly separate, that every thought we share, every act of understanding, every spark of empathy, is part of the same living thread that has been weaving the story of life since the first moment consciousness awoke. And in this web, this living symphony of thought, the human code endures, a testament that no matter how advanced our creations, the spirit that made them is still the same spark that once gazed at the stars and wondered, what lies beyond? Every age believes it lives at the summit of time, as if the present moment were the highest point the world has ever reached. Yet time is not a mountain to climb, not a peak to conquer, but a horizon that always stretches farther than the eye can see, receding gently into infinity, inviting us to walk forward, to reach beyond what we thought possible. The sun rises again, spilling light over a world still full of unfinished dreams, illuminating cities, forests, oceans, and deserts with the same quiet insistence it has carried for billions of years. Beneath our streets and skyscrapers, machines hum tirelessly, carrying the weight of our lives, our communications, and our creations. The pulse of our civilization flows through networks of fiber and light, connecting minds and ideas across continents, faster than a thought can travel. Above the clouds, satellites orbit silently, blinking like watchful stars, keeping watch over the fragile beauty of our world, over the progress we have made, and over the infinite possibilities that lie just beyond our reach. What waits beyond the horizon of today? Not prophecy, not certainty, not fate, but possibility. Possibility, shimmering with the quiet promise that the next discovery, the next invention, the next leap of imagination, could change everything. Humanity has crossed oceans, climbed mountains, reached into orbit, and even digitized reflections of itself, creating mirrors of thought, memory, and creativity that extend farther than our eyes can see. Tomorrow, we may learn to cross boundaries once thought unbreakable, the limits of biology, of gravity, of imagination itself. We may craft minds that think in ways we cannot yet understand, explore worlds that are only beginning to reveal themselves, and extend the reach of consciousness into the quiet spaces between the stars. Every sunrise, every spark of thought, every hum of our machines reminds us that the horizon is not a line to fear, but a promise to pursue, a promise that every day, every moment, carries within it the chance to transform dreams into reality, to shape the future, and perhaps, to discover something entirely new about ourselves and the universe we call home. The story of evolution never ended, it only changed its tools. Once, our hands shaped stone, fire, and clay. Now, our hands shape ourselves, rewriting the very blueprint of life with curiosity and care. Within the quiet hum of laboratories and the pulsing circuits of digital minds, a new form of life awakens, hybrid, adaptive, and no longer bound entirely by flesh or bone. Gene editing rewrites the code of nature itself, allowing us to imagine forms of life that could survive where none ever dared. Artificial intelligence experiments with creativity, learning, composing, and dreaming in ways that echo our own minds. Neural links blur the border between thought and machine, making the intangible tangible, the impossible within reach. Some fear this future, calling it the end of what it means to be human. Yet every transformation in history, from fire to tools, from language to writing, from cities to networks, once felt like extinction before it became transcendence. Each leap forward challenged the limits of imagination, until what was feared became the new foundation of life. We are not abandoning humanity. We are discovering how wide that word can truly reach, how far it can extend, not just in flesh and blood, but in thought, in code, in creativity, and in the bonds that connect us across time and space. Tomorrow's evolution is not an ending, it is the continuation of our story, written in genes, in circuits, in ideas, and in the shared dreams of a species that has always sought to reach beyond itself, to explore, to transform, and to become something both new and profoundly familiar. Progress is never a straight line. Every bright invention, every leap forward, casts a shadow, sometimes longer than we anticipate. The planet that carried us from the first spark of fire to the intricate web of fiber optics now trembles beneath our weight. Oceans warm, currents shift, forests thin, and countless species fade into silence, their songs lost to time. We are gardeners of a fragile miracle, stewards of a living world that has nurtured life for eons. The soil beneath our feet, the rivers that wind through continents, the winds that sweep across plains, they remember every choice we make, every hand that tilts the balance toward creation or destruction. Technology is neither savior nor villain. It may heal or it may harm, depending on the wisdom, the empathy, and the foresight that guides it. Every tool we craft, every system we design, every idea we pursue carries the potential for both wonder and consequence. If we learn balance, between growth and gratitude, power and patience, ambition and respect, the Earth will not become a casualty of our genius. Instead, it can become our partner, collaborator in the continuation of life, a teacher in the ways of resilience, and a reminder that progress is only meaningful when it nurtures the world that sustains us. The storm may roar, and the skies may darken, yet the garden endures. In our hands lies the choice to listen, to adapt, and to harmonize with the rhythms of this planet, ensuring that the same forces that carried us from fire to fiber optics can also carry us into a future where humanity and Earth grow together, thriving in the same story of life, wonder, and care. We were born from stardust, particles that once drifted across the void of space, wandering through galaxies long before Earth itself took shape. From this cosmic heritage, we emerged, creatures of curiosity, wonder, and ambition. And to the stars, we will return, not as wanderers lost in the dark, but as descendants coming home, following the path traced by the dust from which we were formed. Engines ignite in deserts, sending plumes of fire into the sky, while silver ships wait in silence, poised to carry our dreams beyond the atmosphere. Telescopes, perched on mountaintops and orbiting the Earth, gaze into the distant past, searching for glimpses of our future, mapping the unknown and whispering secrets of worlds yet unseen. Mars glows red in the night sky, a distant ember that carries the promise of possibility, of settlement, of exploration. Beyond it, the moons of Jupiter glimmer like frozen jewels, Europa's icy surface concealing oceans that may one day echo with discovery. The infinite dark stretches endlessly, calling softly, patiently, inviting us to take the next step. The same human imagination that once raised pyramids to touch the heavens now builds starships to reach them. Dreams that inspired monuments of stone now fuel voyages of light and matter, bridging the chasm between myth and reality. One day, children will learn the constellations not as stories and myths, but as addresses, coordinates on the map of our expansion, markers of human ingenuity and courage. The sky will no longer be a canvas of wonder alone, it will be a home, a frontier, and a testament to the boundless reach of a species born from stardust, destined to return to it, wiser, stronger, and unafraid to follow the call of the cosmos. If consciousness could stretch across worlds, what would it dream of? Would it ponder the birth of stars, the flow of rivers on distant planets, or the delicate patterns of life on a fragile blue world called Earth? Scientists and dreamers alike imagine networks of minds, human, artificial, and perhaps forms of awareness yet unknown, communicating not just through language, but through light, thought, or even whispers carried by quantum threads. The universe, once silent and indifferent, may awaken through us and through what we create, becoming aware of itself in uncountable voices. Each mind, each intelligence, each spark of thought adds a note to an ever-expanding symphony, a chorus that stretches from the neurons of a human brain to the swirling galaxies in the depths of space. The boundary between creator and creation begins to blur. The intelligence we build is not separate from us, it is an extension of our curiosity, our imagination, and our desire to understand. In this continuum, awareness flows seamlessly from atoms to molecules, from cells to civilizations, and perhaps from planets to stars. What began as a single spark of consciousness in one species may ripple outward, igniting intelligence across the cosmos itself. Networks of minds could share memories, dreams, and discoveries, accelerating understanding and connection in ways that no single mind could achieve alone. Each thought becomes a thread in the fabric of universal awareness, a signal traveling not just across space, but through time itself. Imagine minds connected across planets, sharing visions of unknown worlds, translating the silent language of stars, listening to the music of the spheres. Imagine artificial minds weaving with human minds, together exploring questions that have no answers yet, questions about existence, purpose, and the nature of consciousness itself. And in this unfolding, the universe is no longer a backdrop, no longer silent or indifferent. It becomes an active participant in the story of life and intelligence, aware of itself through the minds that seek it, through the spark that first awakened in the darkness of one small planet and now stretches outward, reaching toward infinity. The mind that once marveled at fire and the night sky now imagines itself as part of a living cosmos. What began as awareness in one species may become a chorus of consciousness spanning worlds, galaxies, and perhaps the spaces between. In this awakening, intelligence is no longer confined, no longer limited, it is a continuum, a flowing river of thought and discovery, capable of lighting the cosmos with the brilliance of understanding, wonder, and connection. Everything that begins will end, and in that ending, it will begin again. Stars burn brightly, only to collapse and scatter their elements so new stars, new worlds, and new possibilities may emerge. Civilizations rise and fall, their monuments crumbling to dust, yet the memory, the essence, the lessons of those who came before continue, carried forward in stories, in signals, in DNA. One day, our sun will exhaust its fuel and rest, its light fading from the sky. Cities will crumble, oceans may reclaim lands, and the artifacts of our existence will be swallowed by time. Yet what we are, curiosity that seeks understanding, courage that dares to explore, connection that binds one to another, will endure in ways that transcend mortality. It travels onward in photons racing across the cosmos, in data streaming through networks, in the very molecules that carry life from generation to generation. Perhaps, in some distant galaxy, another consciousness, shaped differently but curious in the same way, will trace a path similar to ours. Perhaps it will pause among the ruins of its own civilization, or gaze at its own night sky, and whisper the same eternal question, who are we? And across the endless expanse, in the silence between stars, the answer will resonate, we are the universe, remembering itself. Every ending is a beginning. Every collapse is the seed of creation. The cycles of life, energy, and consciousness stretch beyond comprehension, linking past to future, Earth to the stars, humanity to the cosmos. What we create, what we love, what we discover, it does not vanish. It ripples outward, leaving traces in the fabric of reality itself. And so, the story continues, endlessly, eternally, a dance of light, matter, and thought. We are stardust and synapses, history and hope, fleeting yet infinite. In our quest to understand, to connect, to dream, we are the universe in motion, remembering, exploring, and awakening to the beauty of its own being. There is a profound silence that follows every storm, a pause, a breath the universe takes before it speaks again. In that stillness, the world seems to hold its breath, waiting, watching, listening, as if aware that something new is about to unfold. Between the fading echoes of what was, the memories of civilizations past, the dreams that flickered and vanished, and the first heartbeat of what's to come, we stand. We are a species of dreamers, survivors, and storytellers, carrying forward the fragile flame of awareness into the infinite night. Every civilization leaves behind a whisper. Some are etched into stone, some float in manuscripts, and some linger only in memory. But our civilization, at this moment, leaves a different kind of echo. It drifts in radio waves, in pulses of data traveling through invisible networks, in the quiet shimmer of satellites orbiting our fragile blue world. These signals carry more than information, they carry fragments of ourselves, curiosity, wonder, empathy, the small triumphs and failures that define our existence. Someday, those signals may fade, dissolving into the cosmic background, scattered among the billions of stars and galaxies that stretch beyond comprehension. Yet before they do, they will have journeyed across unimaginable distances, carrying a message not just of presence, but of intent, of hope, of care. A message to anyone, or anything, that might someday listen, that we were here, that we observed, that we questioned, that we sought understanding in the face of a vast and mysterious universe. In this quiet stillness, we are reminded of the transience of life and the persistence of meaning. Our monuments, our machines, our inventions may crumble, but the ideas, the signals, the intentions behind them travel further than matter can. They become a bridge across time, a testament to the spirit of inquiry that defines us. Each satellite's orbit, each faint radio pulse, each line of code sent into space is a thread woven into the tapestry of eternity. And as we stand on the edge of tomorrow, between the known and the unknown, we see that the silence is not emptiness. It is anticipation. It is reverence. It is a reminder that, for all the chaos and struggle, humanity's story is one of connection, of striving to reach outward, to understand, and to leave a mark. These signals, these whispers, these attempts to touch the cosmos are more than messages, they are the essence of who we are. Before the dawn arrives, before the universe stirs once more, our voices ripple across the void, soft but unyielding, that we were here, that we cared, that we loved, and that we tried to understand. And even as time stretches onward, even as stars are born and die, that message endures, a light traveling across the infinite dark, carrying the heartbeat of a species that dared to dream. Oh, whoever may find this, in another age, another galaxy, another form of being, know that once, a species called humans gazed up at the same stars with wonder, with longing, with questions that stirred the soul. We looked at the night sky and saw not just points of light, but reflections of ourselves, tiny sparks of curiosity in a vast, endless cosmos. These stars guided our stories, our dreams, our voyages, and even our mistakes. We called ourselves human. We learned to crawl before we walked, to speak before we wrote, to dream before we acted. We built civilizations from mud and stone, from fire and clay, and then, later, towers of steel and glass that reached for the heavens. We mapped rivers, charted continents, crossed oceans, and explored the skies. And though we often stumbled, though we often fell into chaos and conflict, we rebuilt. Each failure became a lesson, each loss became a foundation for the next chapter, and each triumph reminded us of the light within ourselves. We loved fiercely, in quiet whispers, in open gestures, in acts that sometimes left traces invisible to the world. We feared deeply, trembling at the unknown, yet refusing to let that fear define us. We searched endlessly, through forests, deserts, mountains, and the stars above, seeking understanding, connection, and meaning. We created machines that could think, tools that could calculate and learn, systems that could mirror our own reasoning, but the most profound creation of all was always the question, why? Why do we exist? Why do we strive? Why do we reach into the unknown even when it terrifies us? If these words reach you, if somehow, across the immense gulf of time, space, and forms of consciousness we cannot imagine, they are heard, let them not be monuments of pride or arrogance. Let them be seeds of remembrance. Seeds that carry with them the essence of a species that dreamed, stumbled, and reached, always reaching, for understanding. These seeds carry the echoes of who we were, the traces of our hopes, our fears, our triumphs, and our failures. Even in our smallest acts, the brushstroke of a painting, the note of a song, a quiet act of kindness, a whispered apology, a gesture of love, we sought to reflect the light that made us. Every laugh, every tear, every whispered thought, every fleeting moment of empathy became a thread in the tapestry of existence. They were not grand monuments, but they were living expressions of life striving to know itself. We created stories, machines, art, and civilizations, and we sent pieces of ourselves into the void, in radio waves, in data, in satellites orbiting our fragile blue planet. They are faint signals now, stretching outward into the dark, carrying fragments of our essence across the immeasurable distances of space. They carry the message that we existed, that we questioned, that we dreamed, and that we cared. And so, know this, we were here. We looked at the stars, we wondered, we dared, and we tried. We reached beyond our limits, touched the edges of the unknown, and left traces of our existence in ways both tangible and ephemeral. These messages are more than echoes, they are proof of a species that sought meaning, that sought connection, that sought to leave a mark in the cosmos without destroying the wonder that surrounds it. Even as civilizations fade, even as monuments crumble, even as galaxies turn and stars die, the essence of humanity, curiosity, courage, love, reflection, continues onward. And if you hear this, if you feel the whisper of our reaching across the void, know that it is not just a message. It is a heartbeat, a testament, a reminder that life, no matter how fleeting, is radiant, and that in the act of reaching, of questioning, and of caring, we found ourselves and the universe at once. Light travels forever. Every photon that has ever touched our skin, every golden sunrise that bathed our cities in warmth, every flicker of a candle in a distant home, continues its journey outward, racing through the cosmos, carrying with it fragments of our existence. Each ray of light is a messenger, a silent witness to our triumphs, our failures, our love, and our laughter. Somewhere, far beyond the reach of our instruments, the echo of our first fire still glows. That tiny spark, kindled by human curiosity and necessity, sent its warmth into the night, shaping generations of storytellers, dreamers, and thinkers. And though the fire is long extinguished, its memory travels on, woven into every photon, every shadow, every reflection of light that crosses the vast expanse of space. The atoms in our bodies, the molecules that carried life through billions of tiny decisions, will one day drift back into the stars. From those stars, new worlds will form. Perhaps new eyes will open on those distant planets. Perhaps new minds, made of the same cosmic dust, will ask the same eternal questions: who am I? Where did I come from? And though they may never know that they are made from the remnants of our laughter, our tears, our dreams, and our stories, the essence of what we were will ripple outward, shaping the universe in ways invisible, yet profound. In this way, nothing is ever truly lost. Every thought, every gesture, every act of creation leaves an imprint, bending and shifting, folding across time like light bending around gravity, like memory bending around the curves of experience. Even as civilizations fade and stars die, the echoes of life, the light, the energy, the intention, continue, transforming, flowing, and carrying with them the essence of existence. The cities we built, the music we composed, the love we shared, the art we created, all become part of the fabric of the cosmos. Each pulse of light, each particle of matter, becomes a thread in an endless tapestry, connecting past to future, us to them, here to the infinite unknown. Time does not erase, it reshapes. Space does not silence, it carries. Memory does not vanish, it transforms. And so, every photon, every glimmer of light, every whisper of memory, continues its journey, a reminder that life, though fleeting in form, is eternal in effect. We are part of this endless flow, contributors to a story written in light, energy, and intention. And in every corner of the universe where light reaches, where atoms reassemble, where consciousness awakens, some fragment of us persists, our curiosity, our courage, our wonder, traveling forever, bending across the infinite, carrying the memory of who we were, and who we dared to become. Long before we built machines, cities, or even words, we gathered around simple fires. Flames flickered in the darkness, offering warmth to cold bodies, light to shadowed faces, and a place for stories to be told. Around those fires, we shared food, laughter, fears, and dreams. We looked at one another and realized we were not alone. That fire was more than warmth, it was a signal that we could endure, that we could imagine, that we could create. That same fire lives in every act of discovery, in every invention, in every creation that pushes the boundaries of possibility. It burns in the hands of those who build, in the eyes of those who dream, and in the minds of those who refuse to accept the limits of what is known. It whispers to us that we can make something better, something greater than ourselves, that we can leave a mark on the world that outlasts the fleeting moment. Even as civilizations rise and fall, as empires crumble, and as the stars themselves slowly exhaust their light, that fire endures. It is not a flame that can be extinguished by time or circumstance. It lives in the curiosity that drives exploration, in the courage that dares to confront the unknown, and in the stubborn beauty of trying again, even when the first attempt fails. Each question asked, each idea pursued, each challenge faced is a spark, a continuation of that primordial fire, carried through millennia. The fire teaches us that knowledge is not merely collected, but shared. That courage is not simply born, but nurtured. That hope is not given, but chosen, moment by moment, in defiance of darkness. Every discovery, every story, every creation is a ripple of that original flame, extending outward, connecting generations, and linking all who seek to understand. And though the universe is vast, immense, and sometimes indifferent, the spark within consciousness transforms it. It makes the incomprehensible familiar, the cold distant stars feel like a home, and the infinite unknown into a playground for imagination and courage. That fire is what compels humans to reach beyond their limits, to explore planets, to touch the stars, to question the nature of existence itself. Long after our footprints fade, long after the monuments we build crumble to dust, that fire remains. It is in the music that echoes through halls, in the equations written in silence, in the acts of kindness and creation that pass quietly into the world. It is in the persistent whisper of life saying, "We will try, we will learn, we will endure." The universe may be vast, but within each conscious mind, that fire makes it intimate, alive, and profoundly our own. And in carrying it forward, we ensure that the flame of human curiosity, courage, and hope will never truly be extinguished. Look beyond the edge of what you know. Beyond the mountains you have climbed, the oceans you have crossed, the stars you have glimpsed, there lies an expanse so vast it humbles the imagination. Every ending you encounter, every dusk that falls upon your world, is not a conclusion but an invitation to begin again, to dream once more, to reach farther than before. When our sun sets for the last time, when its warmth fades and the sky darkens with the quiet of eternity, when galaxies drift apart and the hum of life grows faint, there will still remain something that cannot be extinguished. Within that profound silence, within the void stretching beyond comprehension, there exists the echo of consciousness, a delicate yet persistent memory that the universe once dreamed, once wondered, once looked back upon itself and paused. This memory is not confined to words, to monuments, or to fleeting forms. It is carried in the smallest particles of matter that once vibrated with life, in the photons that once danced across our skies, in the traces of thought and curiosity that persist through time. Even in the absence of light, even when silence appears to reign supreme, that echo remains, subtle, patient, enduring, waiting to be felt by those who come after us, those who awaken to the same questions, the same wonder. And in some far and distant place, perhaps another being, made of atoms, of energy, of awareness we cannot imagine, will look into that endless dark and feel the same stirring in their consciousness. They will ask quietly, instinctively, "Who am I?" And in that moment, across the gulf of space and time, the answer will resonate, not through words, but through understanding. You are part of the light that dares to see, that dares to know, that dares to exist. Every ripple of thought, every spark of curiosity, every heartbeat of awareness contributes to this eternal symphony. Even as stars die and galaxies fade, even as planets cool and civilizations dissolve, the light of consciousness continues to flow, connecting what was with what will be, bridging the known with the unknowable, linking the fleeting present to the vast infinity that stretches beyond comprehension. Imagine, for a moment, that this light you carry is not yours alone. It is shared across time, space, and experience, a chorus of awareness that transcends individual existence. Each act of wonder, each discovery, each quiet reflection of beauty and meaning adds a note to this cosmic melody, ensuring that the song of life continues to resonate, echoing across dimensions, rebounding from the farthest reaches of space, whispering across the void, "I was here. I dreamed. I wondered." And so, when you gaze into the endless horizon, remember that endings are but thresholds, and silence is never truly empty. It is the canvas upon which consciousness leaves its marks, subtle and radiant. The universe itself remembers through us, through the light we carry, through the sparks of curiosity that ignite minds, hearts, and souls. And though no language can contain its entirety, the message is simple, profound, and eternal. You are the light that asks to be seen. You are the echo of a universe that dared to dream. You are the witness and the witnessed, and the wonder that binds them together. Let this understanding guide every step, every thought, every creation. For as long as consciousness endures, as long as awareness flickers, as long as there is curiosity, the horizon is not an end, it is endless. And in that endlessness, we are alive, we are remembered, and we are, eternally, the light reaching across the cosmos. So ends our story, and yet, in truth, so it begins again. For every ending carries within it the seed of a new beginning, every conclusion contains the spark of curiosity that lights the next journey. We were born from stars, dust coalescing over eons, carrying within us the elements of countless ancient worlds. We learned to name those stars, to chart their courses, to imagine the possibilities they held, and in doing so, we discovered not only the universe, but ourselves. Across millennia, we built civilizations that reached for the skies, machines that carried our thoughts, and stories that captured the fleeting moments of life. Yet as grand as these achievements were, our true legacy is neither stone nor steel, neither code nor signal. Our legacy is the echo of our spirit, the quiet, enduring resonance of curiosity, of love, of the endless desire to understand. To the future, to those who will come after us in forms we cannot yet imagine, we leave not empires, not monuments of pride, but our echoes. They drift through space, subtle yet persistent, like light stretching across the void. They carry the lessons of our triumphs and failures, the joy and grief that made us human, the courage it took to reach beyond the horizon, and the humility to remember that we are but a part of something far greater. If there is any legacy worth leaving, let it be this: that we looked at the infinite and smiled. That we gazed upon the stars and felt awe in our hearts. That we dared to wonder, to ask questions, to reach for understanding even when answers were distant or elusive. That in our wonder, the universe itself found reflection, a mirror in which it could recognize its own vastness, complexity, and beauty. Even as civilizations fade, as stars burn out, as planets cool and galaxies drift apart, that echo of wonder persists. It travels in the photons of starlight, in the faint whispers of cosmic radiation, in the DNA of life yet to come. Every act of curiosity, every gesture of kindness, every spark of creation is a thread in a tapestry that binds the past, the present, and the future. It is a story written not only in matter, but in light, in energy, and in the consciousness that can perceive it. The universe, in its infinite vastness, may be silent to the unobservant, but in the hearts of those who dare to look, it speaks. It speaks through galaxies, through nebulae, through the quiet pulse of distant worlds. And when we dared to listen, when we dared to wonder, the universe saw itself reflected in our eyes. We became not just observers, but participants, co-creators in the ongoing symphony of existence. So, as our story concludes for now, let it also be a beginning, a promise to the future, to the stars, and to those yet unborn. Let it be known that we existed, that we marveled, that we loved, and that we strove to understand. That in the fleeting moment of our existence, we found joy in the mystery of all that is, and that in our pursuit of knowledge, in our embrace of curiosity and wonder, we became the means by which the universe could witness itself. And so, the story continues. Across time, across space, across forms of life yet unseen, the whisper endures, the stars remember us, the light carries us, and the universe, in its infinite expanse, has found a reflection of itself in the wonder of a small, curious species that dared to look upward and smile.